What's happening, everybody? Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today. We are going to talk about a response to a question in the Blues Guitar Unleashed members Facebook page, which incidentally I don't run, but I'm on there a lot. So anyway, there was a little bit of talk today about the how to find the 1, 4, and the 5 in any given key for a blues. And kind of as a little side thing with that is talking about the Nashville numbering system. You may have heard of the thing called the Nashville numbering system, and the use of a major scale in blues. And this is something that a lot of people get confused on. So I think it's high time we take a little time and discuss it. It's not complicated, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of little bits and pieces, and the part that I don't think gets disseminated enough is the fact that blues doesn't follow traditional music theory. And so I had a really hard time with that because I learned, I was classically trained when I was young, and so I had all this traditional theory. And so it was really hard to kind of break away from that and just accept that, hey, this doesn't follow the rule. It's just the way it is. So I'm going to show you the rule, and then I'm going to show you how to break it. And that's pretty much how it goes. So long story short, the way we number chords is by what I call their function. Okay, so in a traditional major scale, you have 7 unique tones. Although what's interesting is that people will say it's an 8-tone scale. They'll count the octave twice. Okay, but let's say that we're in A, right? So I've got my 5th fret open A, right? Nothing major. Funny, there's a pun for you. So the way we go through all of the notes in the major scale is starting from our root note, and that's the 1, okay? So the first note in the major scale is the 1, right? And we use Roman numerals to describe them. And the chord that is built off of that is a major chord. And that, I'm combining a lot of things all at once right now. I'm going to do kind of an enormous amount of theory in a really short amount of time. So I'm going to say stuff, and you just have to believe me, because I just don't want to take a half an hour or 45 minutes to go on all the backstory behind each of the things I'm about to say. So just bear with me and trust me that a 1 chord is always major. So if we were in the key of A, we would have the open A string. Ta-da! We got it, okay? We go up a whole step, 2 frets, and we get the 2, right? There's the 2nd note in the scale. So if we build a chord off of it, we call it the 2 chord. And in the case of a major key, 2 chords are minor. So in the key of A, the 1 chord we say is A major. The 2 chord we say is B minor, right? The 3 chord, we take the 2 and we go up a whole step to get to the 3rd note of the scale, and again we make it minor. Okay, so in the key of A, we have an A major chord, that's the 1 chord. We have a B minor chord, that's the 2 chord. We have a C sharp minor chord, that's the 3 chord. From 3 to 4, we only go up a half step. Don't ask me why, not right now. And we make the 4 chord major. Okay, so notice that the 1 chord was major and the 4 chord is major. The 3 chord and the 2 chord were minor. Right? If we go up another whole step, we will be at the 5th note of the scale. In this case, that's E. And the 5 chord is major. Okay? If we extend the harmony on the 5 chord, by the way, it might be dominant 7. It's the only one that will be dominant 7. Okay, but just throwing that out there. A 4 chord, if you extend the harmony, it would be major 7, and the 2 and the 3 would be minor 7, while the 1 would also be major 7. Okay, so if we're using basic triads, A, B minor, C sharp minor, D is the 4, E is the 5. If we're using 7th chords, A major 7 is the 1, B minor 7 is the 2, C sharp minor 7 is the 3, D major 7 is the 4, E7 or E dominant 7 is the 5. From the 5th note, we go up another whole step to get to the 6th note, and we get F sharp, and the 6 chords are minor, or again, minor 7th. From the 6, we go up another whole step to get to the 7th note. 7 chords are diminished, okay, and I've never played a diminished chord song in my life. So the shape that I'm using to play it here is one that's probably not worth learning. But I'm playing the G sharp at the 11th fret of the 5th string. The flat 5 is the 12th fret D on the 4th string. My pinky is playing another G sharp on the 3rd string at the 13th fret. And my 3rd finger is playing a B natural on the 12th fret of the 2nd string, in case you want to play that sound. Okay, but typically 7 chords are minor 7 flat 5, the more extended 7th chord harmony. So in this case, I've got my 1st finger on the G sharp at the 11th fret of the 5th string. My 3rd finger's at the D of the 12th fret on the 4th string. My 3rd finger is at the F sharp on the 11th fret of the G string. And my pinky is still on the B at the 12th fret of the 2nd string. And that's the 7 chord. And then we go up a half step from 7 to 1 and we start over. Sometimes some people will call it 8. Since it's the same chord, I will call it 1. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, or 8. Okay? Now sometimes you'll hear people talk about like the 9. After 8 comes 9. So 9 is the same as 2, it's just an octave higher. So when we play like a 9th chord, it has a 9 in it. It has a root, a 3rd, a 5th, a flat 7, and a 9. But I don't want to get too crazy talking about how chords are built. Although you can probably see that all of this stuff connects together. So when you understand how a major scale works, and you understand that each of the notes in the major scale has a number, then you really get it down. If we look at a more traditional way to play a major scale, you might put your middle finger on that A at the 5th fret of the 6th string. Your pinky might play the B at the 7th fret of the 6th string. Your 1st finger would probably play the C sharp here at the 4th fret of the 5th string. Your middle finger would play the D. Your pinky the E. Your 1st finger would go over here to the F sharp on the 4th string. 3rd finger would play that G sharp, and pinky would play the A. Okay, and you could probably recognize that sound, the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, now if you use that pattern, that's a very useful pattern to know. I highly recommend that you learn to play this. Not because you will ever use it in your soloing. And let me be very clear that if you're playing blues, that pattern isn't useful for soloing. It's not the right one. Okay, so I really want to be clear about that. For some classic rock, for a lot of classic rock stuff, and a lot of pop music, and a lot of other kinds of music, the major scale comes up. It's very useful. In blues, it's not. It's not the sound of the blues, and I'm going to show you why. You may remember earlier that I talked about dominant 7th chords, and I said they are the 5, right? Okay, well, here's where we're going to break everything. So hopefully you understood kind of everything that I've said so far, because we're about to break it all, and we're about to turn into blues land, all right? So the 1, we are going to take that 1, and we are going to put a dominant 7th chord on it for blues, okay? Already, that's against the rules. 1 chords can't be dominant 7th. They have to be 5 chord. Don't care. We did it. Just accept it. Move on with your day. All right? 1. So that's the 1 chord in a blues. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Remember we went through? There's the 4 chord. Put a dominant 7th chord on it. Could be a 7th. Could be a 9th. Could be an 11th. Could be a 13. Any dominant 7th style chord will work. And there are 3 chord families. That's a topic for another day. But anything from the dominant chord family is fair game, right? So we have our 1, right? So we used our major scale to find the 1, but then we put the wrong chord on it. And we used our major scale to find the 4, and then we put the wrong chord on it. And then we used our major scale to find the 5, and we put another dominant 7th chord, which is the right chord, on it. So that's the only one that doesn't break the rule. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you can remember that little pattern from the major scale, you can find 1 and 4 and 5 very easily. 1, 4, 5, 4, 1. It always makes that kind of motion, okay? So probably even easier than, I'll say, remembering, how to play that major scale, though it's worthwhile, is just to remember that the 1 will always have the 4 right above it, and the 5 a whole step above that, 2 frets. So if somebody says, hey, we got a blues in G, great. G, C, and D are my notes. G7, C7, D7, D9, D7, whatever, okay? This is one thing that I can't impress upon you enough, is any of them are okay if they sound good to you, okay? And that's gonna just depend on the situation. Sometimes you're gonna play and you might play a D9 and it just doesn't sound good with everything else. Then don't play that one anymore. Play a D7 instead, okay? If you go simpler, eventually you're gonna get to a point where it's gonna sound okay, unless you got the wrong chord. But assuming the band is playing a 7th chord of some sort, if you try a D13, which is, I'll say, the biggest dominant 7th style chord, and it doesn't sound good, okay, well, for some reason that's just not jiving to your ear. Try a D9. If that's not jiving to your ear, try a D7. If that's not jiving, try a D. Okay, so you kind of want to go down. It's just a little side note there that makes a difference. But this is how you find the 1, the 4, and the 5 in any key. Okay, and you can actually, using what we talked about earlier, about how like the 1 chord is major and the 2 chord is minor and the 3 chord is minor and the 4 chord is major and the 5 chord is dominant 7 and the 6 chord is minor and the 7 chord is minor 7 flat 5. Okay, if you know that, that's called the standard harmony rule. And the Nashville numbering system would do something like, it would say play 1, 6, 4, 5. So you would just know that 1 is the A major chord, 6 is the F sharp minor chord, 4 is the D major chord, and E is the 5 chord, okay? And this goes way back, okay? This goes way back to the old days in the studios when somebody would write a song and they'd take a song into the studio. And I think it's helpful to understand the history on this. And they would use these numbers, okay, instead of the actual chord names. And the reason is because they would put those down in front of the session musicians and say, okay, we have a male vocalist coming in, we're gonna do it in G. Band's like, okay, fine, whatever. They play through the song. Next session, they say, okay, we have a female vocalist, we're gonna try and cut it with her. So we're gonna do it in D. No problem. Da, 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 da. That seemed a little bit tough for her. Let's do it in D flat. Okay, no problem. And they would just play it again. So by knowing the numbers that associate with any key, you know the song by number, by chord function. This song goes, 1, 3, 4, 2, 5. Okay, great. Then it goes 1, 3, 4, 2, 5. Okay, oh, it's not going to be in A, it's going to be in F. Okay, 1, 3, 4, 2, 5 in F. That's fine. Oh, it turns out we're going to do this other singer. It's going to be in B. All right. 1, 3, 4, what did I say? 2, 5. Assuming you can remember the numbers. Okay. So whatever the key is, you don't care. You just build the major scale, figure out what all the chords are going to be, done. Off you go. So I always learn songs by chord function. I never learn them by the names of the chords. Okay, whenever I learn a song, I look at what the chords are, I figure out what all the numbers are, and there's a process to doing that. It's a rather long process, but once you get good at it, it's very simple. There's a lot of shortcuts. And if you happen to have my Guitar Theory Made Useful course, all those shortcuts are there. So you should definitely go check those out because the shortcuts do make it very, very fast. But this is not a difficult concept. Most importantly for blues players is the 1, 4, and 5. And that's really what I wanted to make sure that I covered today. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And you can now quickly and easily find that 1 and the 4 and the 5. Okay, so I'm gonna do something that I don't normally do though, because it's Friday and we're just kind of hanging out. And so if you're all done with the lesson, you can go off and do something else. But I'm gonna actually look through. We got some comments. I got the YouTube comments over here. We got lots of people. Is that the trackpad green? I don't know if my guitar is. This is I get a lot of questions about this guitar. It's a Paul Reed Smith SC single cutaway 594. I don't know what the name of this green is, so I'm sorry I can't answer your question in that regard. But I do know that it's awesome and I love it. Believe it or not, it was a gift from a very, very dear friend, and I've played it ever since, and I love it. And it is pretty much an exact copy of a 59 Les Paul. So it's got that same feel on the neck. The sound is almost identical. And I actually have, from years ago, I have a what they call the virtual old stock Les Paul with the gold top, and it's the 59 and everything. And they play virtually identical. Admittedly, this one has a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit brighter. It's a little bit livelier sound. So I think it's even better than the Gibson. Let's see. There's a bunch of people on the Facebooks. All right, Trampus. Oh, thank you, Trampus Green. I guess it's called. Thank you. Yeah. Hey, Tom, Craig, Steven. Awesome. So, anybody got any questions on finding 1s and 4s and 5s or anything like that? I think. Oh, love Dean Lees. Thank you. My pleasure. Climber 7565. Thanks for all the great comments, man. I do. I try to get in there and check as often as I can, and you're always very positive and helpful, and I really, really appreciate that. The pickups are whatever come. They're the PRS pickups. I'm sorry, I don't know. I haven't done anything with them other than rewire it to make it work for me. I have a tendency on all of my guitars that have the Les Paul style wiring. I rewire the lower volume control to be a master. So, because when I sing or when I teach, I can't look down. And so I like to be able to switch and have just one volume control. And that's just easy for me. So that's the only thing that I've done. Any new courses coming out soon? Kind of, yeah. Actually, I'm in the middle of working on a couple of things for y'all. So there might be something cooking a little later next week that I've been working on a different little approach to something. But I don't have anything far enough along or done to the point that I want to say this is here it is. The main thing I've been working on is we've got a new record coming out. So Griff Hamlin and the Single Barrel Blues Band will be releasing hopefully April 26th. You'll be able to go to iTunes and Spotify and whatever and buy it. So I will keep you posted. Don't worry. I will keep you up on that. And let's see. Best to memorize the key chord chart. I don't know if I'm not big on memorization, particularly rote memorization. That's a great question. I was never one of those guys who sat down and looked at a sheet of paper and memorized it. However, I get frustrated quickly when I have to go look something up. And so for me, I memorized the stuff because I use it every single day. And I think more importantly than, oh, hey, Ken. Yeah, that's my good friend who gave me this guitar. Great to see you, buddy. I think it's better to use this stuff every day. Anytime you learn a song, or anytime you can look at it, just open up some sheet music and look at the chords and see if you can sort of figure out a couple of great tips. If you've got two major chords that are a whole step apart, they're a 4 and a 5. Okay, so that's a really easy trick. If you see a song that has a D and an E, then you know that those are the 4 and the 5. Okay, and you'll be amazed how often that happens in songs. Same thing if you see two minor chords, like a B minor and a C sharp minor, two minor chords that are a whole step apart. that tells you that they're 2 and 3. And I can't tell you how often you will see just those 2 little shortcuts pop up. So, break out a songbook and take a Beatles might be a little bit complicated, but take something simple like some Eagles, or some Peter, Paul and Mary, or some folk music, or some country music is great for this, because they almost never, particularly in older classic country, they almost always stick to the key. They don't tend to change keys a whole lot. And you can just like open up a book and just try to do it. Just try to figure it out. Or take a song that you know and write down the chords and see if you can figure out which key they all come from. And simply by doing this every day, you get to where you just, because you use it so often, your brain goes, oh yeah, we're gonna need this, and so it'll just stay there. And that's way easier than sort of memorizing chord charts and things like that. Stormy Monday Blues. You could no particular song. So he said, Stormy Monday Blues uses this numbering system. Yes, Don, the album will be available on digital download. Yes. Ed, the Stormy Monday, you can describe any tune this way. Okay? So if you wanted to, for example, like if you were playing Stormy Monday, you'd say it's the 1, right? We have the 1, call it Stormy Monday, to the 4, Tuesday's just as bad, and 1, and then some people use the flat 2, okay? Because that would be the 2. Flat 2, and then back to the 1, and then to the 4, and then to the 1, and the 2, and the 3, and then this guy here is a flatted 3, right? And then could go to the 2, to the 4 minor, to the 1, to the 4, to the 1, to the 5, right? That's one way I could describe that tune, okay? If I, as opposed to something like Sweet Home Chicago, where it's 1, 4, and 1, and 4, and 1, and 5, and 1, and 4. So most blues tunes, right, are just, they're a very basic set of chords. So you're not going to get anything fancy out of it. What if you take something like, I always used to use Sister Golden here, which is 6, 4, 1, 3, 6, 5, 4, and 1, and then it's 3, because most songs don't have 3s in them, and 4, and 2, and 6. I think I might have this wrong. 4, and 2, and 6, and 5, and 4, and 2, and 4, and 1. Right? So that's a song that's actually got a lot of chords in it, and it works out. Like if you look at those chords, you can go, okay, it's in the key of E, and that's the 6, and that's the 4, and that's the 1, and that's the 5, and like they all line up. And that's pretty cool to have a song that actually uses all 6 chords from a key. Okay, and I say all 6. Yeah, there's a 7th, but like I said, very few songs actually use the 7th chord. But you could look at something like Still Got the Blues, right? Which is 2, 5, 1, 4, 7, and this E major is a 3. It's been made into a dominant 7th chord, and again, that's a little bit of a tricky thing. That's because it's a 5 in a minor key. Again, I don't want to get into that, but then we go to the 6, right? So 2, 5, 1, 4, 7, 3, 6. Okay, so that's another one. Where you have a lot of chords that are going to happen. Let's see, something like Hotel California, this is again in a minor key, so it's in B minor. So, but you could call it a 6, a 3, a 2. No, actually that doesn't work out. That changes keys. It changes keys. That one would be really complicated. Never mind. Forget about that one. Don't try to do Hotel California. Maggie May, let's see. Yeah, right? Okay, and that's a 5 and 4 and 1 and 4 and 1 and 4 and 5 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 5 and 2, 5. A lot of 2, 5. And 1. Anything like that. A lot of those, I'll say strum along songs, gobs of chords. And the way I can remember thousands of them is because I remember them by number. And so I just ask the singer what key it's going to be in. And if I'm singing, then I pick one. And I know this is a whole bunch of stuff, and I get that. Somebody said data overload. Go back and watch it again, though. Because now I'm just giving examples to sort of show you the point here. But if you do like one song each day and just kind of take 5 minutes and try it for yourself, you'll get it down. You'll get to the point again where you don't have to memorize the stuff. You just use it all the time. Okay, let's see. Anybody else? That's how I figured out Melissa. Oh yeah, Melissa's a good one too. Something like that. I can't remember, but yeah. Alrighty. Well, listen, I'm going to wrap up for today. Thanks for joining me. Hope you had some fun. As always, if you're watching me on the YouTube and you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. On the Facebooks, if you're watching, make sure you follow or like or whatever it is you do to the Blues Guitar Unleashed page. I don't really do. If you send me a friend request, I'll probably ignore it because I don't really do that. but do like the Blues Guitar Unleashed page, and then you will get notified when these sorts of things come up. They're kind of random, so if you want to be notified, make sure you follow or like or whatever it is, Blues Guitar Unleashed. I'm still not cool enough to have an Instagram for Blues Guitar Unleashed, but I'll get there one of these days. And yeah, that's about it. If you have a friend that plays guitar, make sure you share it with them if you think this is something that would be useful to them. And I will see you later. Take care.